The divorce papers lay scattered across the kitchen table like fallen leaves. But it was the cream-coloured envelope tucked between my old wedding album pages that stopped my heart completely. In my own handwriting, faded but unmistakable, were the words, "For Mum, wedding morning," written across paper that had yellowed with 15 years of waiting. The house stood silent around me in the grey October dawn, empty now except for the echoes of arguments that had finally driven my husband to pack his bags 3 days ago. I had been sorting through our belongings with the methodical precision of someone determined not to feel, boxing up the remnants of what we had once believed would last forever. The wedding album had been buried beneath tax returns and forgotten birthday cards in the hall closet, a relic from a time when I still believed in fairy tales and happy endings. I should have thrown it away. I should have added it to the pile of things that would go to Goodwill along with his old sweaters and the ceramic vases we had received as wedding gifts. But something had made me flip through those pages one last time, past photographs of a girl in white lace who looked so young and hopeful it made my chest ache. Past pictures of dancing and cake cutting and bouquet tossing, past all the moments that had felt so significant then and seemed so fragile now. The envelope had been pressed between the last pages like a pressed flower, forgotten but preserved, waiting for this moment when my marriage was ending to remind me of the morning it had begun. The kitchen was bathed in the pale light that comes just before sunrise, the same quality of light that had filled my childhood bedroom 15 years ago on a June morning that had started with such promise. I could almost smell the gardenias from my mother's garden that she had woven into my hair, almost hear the soft rustle of my wedding dress hanging on the closet door like a white ghost of dreams, about to come true. My hands trembled as I lifted the envelope, its weight heavier than I remembered. The seal had never been broken. The words inside had been trapped for 15 years, growing more potent with each passing season, like wine aging in darkness. I had written this letter at 5 a.m. on my wedding day, sitting at my vanity in my childhood bedroom while my mother slept in the next room, pouring my heart onto paper with the desperate need to say things I had never been able to speak aloud. But I had lost my courage. When she had knocked on my door at 7 with coffee and tears of joy in her eyes, when she had helped me into my dress and fastened each tiny button with such tender care, when she had looked at me in the mirror and whispered that I was beautiful, in all those moments, the letter had remained sealed, the words unspoken, the bridge I had tried to build between us left incomplete. The paper whispered as I opened it, releasing the faint scent of the vanilla perfume I had worn that day, the one she had given me for my 16th birthday. The ink had faded from black to brown, but my handwriting was still clear, still carrying the urgency of a 23-year-old girl who had finally found the words she had been searching for her entire life. Dear Mum, in 3 hours, I will walk down the aisle of St. Mary's Church and become someone's wife. In 3 hours, I will promise to love and honor a man I have known for 2 years, in front of friends and family who have gathered to witness what they believe will be the happiest day of my life. But before I take those vows, before I speak the words that will change everything, I need to tell you the things I should have said years ago, the things that have lived in my heart like seeds waiting for the right moment to grow. I need to tell you that I forgive you. I forgive you for the divorce when I was 12, for the nights you cried yourself to sleep while I pressed my ear to the wall and wished I was brave enough to comfort you. I forgive you for dating Richard too soon afterward, for bringing him to my 8th grade graduation when the wound was still so fresh I could barely look at him without hating everything he represented. I forgive you for being human, for making mistakes, for being imperfect in all the ways that mothers fear they are imperfect. But most of all, I forgive you for not being able to save Dad. I know you blame yourself for his leaving, for not fighting harder to keep our family together, for not being whatever it was he needed you to be. I know because I have seen it in your eyes every time someone mentions him. Every time a song comes on the radio that reminds us of the man who walked away from us like we were a chapter he was finished reading. I know, because you have carried that guilt like a stone in your chest for 11 years, and it has made you smaller, sadder, more careful with your heart than anyone should have to be. You need to know that his leaving had nothing to do with you, and everything to do with the restlessness that lived in him like a fever. You need to know that you loved him the only way you knew how, completely, faithfully, with the kind of devotion that would have moved mountains if mountains could be moved by love alone. You need to know that even though he left us, even though he chose a different life in a different state with a different woman, the love you gave him was not wasted. It wasn't wasted because it taught me what love should look like. It taught me that love means showing up every day, even when showing up is hard. It taught me that love means making someone coffee the way they like it and remembering their dreams and forgiving their flaws and choosing them again and again. Even when they don't deserve it. It taught me that love means being brave enough to stay when leaving would be easier. I have watched you love me that way for 23 years. I have watched you put my needs before your own, my dreams before your comfort, my happiness before your own peace of mind. When I wanted to take art classes, you worked extra shifts to pay for them. When I got into college, you took out loans you couldn't afford to make sure I could go. When I brought Michael home to meet you, you welcomed him with the same warmth you would have shown a son, even though I know you worried he wasn't good enough for me. You have been everything a mother should be, and I have been too proud, too stubborn, too afraid of being vulnerable to tell you so. I have let the distance that grief created between us grow into a wall that neither of us knew how to climb. I have let years pass without saying the words that should have been said daily. Thank you. I love you. I am grateful. I am sorry. I am sorry for being angry at you when Dad left, for blaming you for not being able to fix what was already broken. I am sorry for being difficult during those first years after the divorce, for pushing you away when you needed me most, for making you feel like you had lost not just a husband but a daughter too. I am sorry for all the times I chose silence over honesty, distance over closeness, pride over love. Today I am marrying a good man who loves me the way you taught me I should be loved. Steadily, kindly, with patience for my moods and faith in my dreams. Today I am starting a new chapter of my life, but I don't want to begin it carrying the weight of unspoken words between us. I don't want to walk down that aisle without you knowing that everything good in me, everything worthy of love, everything capable of giving love in return, came from you. You gave me strength when you worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat after Dad left. You gave me resilience when you showed me how to rebuild a life from the pieces of what was broken. You gave me compassion when you forgave him even after he stopped calling, stopped sending birthday cards, stopped being the father I deserved. You gave me hope when you started dating again, when you allowed Richard into our lives despite your fear, when you chose to believe that love was still possible, even after love had disappointed you so deeply. And you gave me wisdom when you let me make my own mistakes, when you bit your tongue instead of warning me away from heartbreak. when you stood by and watched me learn the hard lessons you could not teach me, ready to catch me if I fell, but brave enough to let me find my own way. I want you to know that as I put on this wedding dress, as I prepare to walk down an aisle scattered with rose petals toward a future I cannot yet imagine, I carry you with me. I carry your voice reminding me to be kind, your hands showing me how to make a house a home, your heart teaching me that love is not just a feeling but a choice we make every single day. I want you to know that when people ask me where I learned to love so fearlessly, I will tell them about you. When they ask me how I know what commitment looks like, I will tell them about the way you kept our family together with determination and grace when everything was falling apart. When they ask me what it means to be a woman of strength, I will tell them about the mother who raised me to believe I could be anything, do anything, survive anything, as long as I remembered who I was and where I came from. Today I am becoming Mrs. David Chen, but I will always be your daughter first. I will always be the girl you rocked to sleep during thunderstorms, the teenager you waited up for on prom night, the young woman you sent into the world with blessings and prayers and a love so deep it could anchor ships in storms. I will carry that love with me into my marriage, into whatever comes next, into all the years that stretch ahead of us like an unwritten story. In a few hours, when you walk me down that aisle, because it should be you, not some uncle or family friend, but you who gives me away, I want you to know that you are not losing a daughter. You are gaining the knowledge that everything you poured into me, every sacrifice you made, every sleepless night you spent worrying about my future, has brought us to this moment where your little girl has grown into a woman capable of choosing love and building a life and maybe, someday, being half the mother you have been to me. I love you more than all the words I have never spoken, more than all the hugs I was too stubborn to give, more than all the thank yous that got lost somewhere between childhood and now. I love you for who you are and who you helped me become. I love you for your mistakes and your triumphs, your fears and your courage, your questions and your certainty. Most of all, I love you for never giving up on us, even when giving up would have been easier, even when I gave you every reason to walk away. You stayed, you fought, you loved me through every phase and stage and difficult season, and today, as I become a wife, I promise to love my husband with the same fierce loyalty you showed me, the same unwavering commitment, the same faith that love can survive anything if both people are willing to do the work. Thank you for being my first example of what love looks like. Thank you for showing me that women can be both strong and soft, both independent and connected, both wounded and whole. Thank you for every bedtime story, every packed lunch, every scraped knee you kissed better, every dream you helped me believe was possible. Thank you for being my mother, my teacher, my first love, my greatest blessing. I hope someday I can be half as good to my children as you have been to me. Your devoted daughter always, Sarah. The letter fluttered to the kitchen table as my hands covered my face, tears flowing freely for the first time since David had walked out 3 days ago. But these weren't tears of grief for my failed marriage. They were tears for the words that had never been spoken, the bridge that had never been built, the relationship that could have been so much deeper if I had found the courage to break it open that morning 15 years ago. My mother had walked me down the aisle, her face radiant with pride and joy, her hand steady on my arm as we moved toward a future that had seemed so bright and certain. She had danced with me at the reception, had helped me out of my wedding dress at the end of the night, had kissed my forehead and wished me a lifetime of happiness. But she had never known how grateful I was, how much I had learned from her, how deeply I had always loved her. And now it was too late. She had died 2 years ago, her heart giving out suddenly on a Tuesday morning while she was watering the gardenias in her garden. We had grown closer in the years after my wedding, but never close enough. There had always been a careful politeness between us, a wall of unspoken history that neither of us had known how to breach. I had told myself there would be time, that someday we would have the conversation that mattered, that eventually the words would come. But time had run out, and the words had remained trapped in an envelope that had grown yellowed with waiting. I picked up the letter again, reading through my tears, seeing clearly now what I had been too afraid to acknowledge 15 years ago, that my marriage had been built on a foundation of unhealed wounds, that I had brought my father's abandonment and my mother's grief into every relationship, that I had never learned to love without fear because I had never forgiven the past. David hadn't left because I was unlovable. He had left because I had never learned to receive love without waiting for it to disappear, because I had kept the deepest parts of myself locked away like letters in envelopes, because I had been so afraid of being hurt again that I had hurt him first with my distance, my doubt, my inability to trust in permanence. The morning sun had risen fully now, filling the kitchen with golden light that made even the divorce papers seem less stark, less final. I folded the letter carefully and slipped it back into its envelope, but this time I didn't hide it away. Instead, I placed it on the refrigerator, held there by a magnet shaped like a heart. A reminder of words that had come too late for one relationship, but might not be too late for all the ones still to come. And as I sat in that quiet kitchen, surrounded by the wreckage of what had been and the possibility of what might still be, I made myself a promise. I would never again let love go unspoken, never again let fear choose silence over truth, never again let the most important words wait for a someday that might never come. Because some letters are meant to be sent, even if they arrive 15 years too late to change the story they were written to heal.